Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Hi, Robert Hartline here with The Decision by EO Nashville. My name is Robert Hartline, and I have our co-host here, Eric Jackson, along with
Good day.
the second-time guest who is on the first 3 episodes. He's almost become our next host here, Colton Mulligan. Thank you for joining us again.
Thanks for the invitation.
Awesome. The reason we brought you here is you gave us a lot of knowledge. You dropped knowledge bombs over several episodes for us. And I took as a takeaway the last time we got together is the importance of the retreat, the Forum retreat. And you were very kind to help me with my own entrepreneurial retreat that I did in Costa Rica. I just got back from, so I'm fresh. I am excited. I had a great time with a tool that you showed me that I got from ForumSherpa.
Yeah. To be clear, it was bastardized a bit, but yes, by me, but yes.
Yes. Okay. So I signed up for that account. By the way,
Then, yeah.
why don't you give some props to ForumSherpa here? This is a free ad. They are not a sponsor, but it's a great tool to find content to help facilitate Forum. Can you tell us what it is?
Real quick, ForumSherpa, in its simplest terms, would be a group that Ellie Bird put together. Ellie Bird's been in Forum she's been in EO for forever. And ForumSherpa is a group of entrepreneurs that now facilitate retreats for other forums in EO, YPO, Harvard Business School forums, whatever that is. And then so you can hire those facilitators. And then likewise, there's probably 300 exercises that Ellie has done or accumulated over time. And so you can go and you could pay for like a subscription to her resource, and you can go and download all kinds of exercises and things that are everything from personal, professional, 5%, goal setting, etc. So mad props to her. I do not get any financial kickbacks if you do anything through her. So if you hire me, yes, but anything else, the toolkit, the retreat book, none of that. I get none of that. I'm just a big believer because it works.
Well, it was very valuable for me to have that tool to go through the exercise. It's very great printed materials. Unfortunately, I, in my race to go to Costa Rica, made some assumptions like, oh, my printer will work when I get there. And guess what? I fought with that printer for a while, but it actually worked out. And I did a very similar exercise. The tool that I used was the vision building, personal vision building exercise to do with Forum. Can you talk for a moment and explain to everyone, you gave me that tool and I got that tool, or you maybe enlightened me on the tool, but you've done this with other retreats. So can you explain your experience using that tool?
We're jumping right into the
heart of it.
Yeah. So that tool, that tool specifically does a really good job. It's one of the things I tell folks when I'm like planning the retreat or working with folks. For what it's worth, I got back from our retreat 2 hours ago. And so that's why I was a little late into the studio.
Wow.
But for what it's worth, this is fresh. So yeah.
It's fresh for me too. I wanted to do that too, because I'm literally like 3 days from doing this exercise. And it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the exercise. I mean, you probably realize when you facilitate, you really got to contain the space. Because what I found when I was I did an entrepreneurial retreat. I had 8 other friends of mine. They were Forum mates, just very close friends that we connected in Costa Rica. I want to do Forum retreats in Costa Rica with other entrepreneurs. I want to lead them. I want to facilitate one day. That will be what I do. But I noticed as wearing the facilitator hat, how important it is to contain the conversation to what's important. It's one thing to connect and like old stories, blah, blah, blah. But I noticed during many of the exercises, if I spend about 10 minutes before we got into the content and got everyone on the same page together, where they weren't talking about, let's say, the past or something that's irrelevant, I remember we were having dinner once and someone said something about Comcast. They were telling a story about Comcast. I was like, that story doesn't belong here. Mm-hmm. That's not, our future is not about Comcast. Like, how do we contain the conversation? But anyway, as a facilitator, well, let's talk about your experience with your last retreat. Tell me, did you use that similar format, or what was your form goal?
So somebody at the retreat, so this was just our mini retreat. So I encourage forums to do 2 retreats a year. This one is just like a 36 to 48 hour retreat. So that's what this one was. But it's a great check-in on things. And somebody on the first day when I was like laying out, I was doing my like 3-minute intro for like what we're doing. They're like, hey, in case we haven't called it out, can we just call it out again that we are all fully aware that we are your guinea pigs whenever you want to try out new shit that you're working. I was like 100%. Like, this is, you didn't pay me $6,000 for this retreat. Therefore, I'm going to get my money's worth, and I'm going to make sure. So I tried out a new thing called Ikigai, which we could get into later, but it's a similar vehicle of like looking at your life and then understanding, am I living into my purpose and my meaning? Do I even have that defined? Where does my passion reside? My mission, my vocation, my career? There's a lot of layers that go into it. I'm about to get all over the place. So I should say this, because you said, hey, so talking about the structure overall, is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I would say, and then we can dive into that exercise specifically. Normally what I like to do with retreats, and I'm saying this again, and I think the intent is for this podcast specifically is, hey, from a programming perspective, how to help out, whether you do or do not have a facilitator, right? Professional facilitator. Is that what you're wanting?
I think that is how, the bigger question is how to have a great retreat.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people might not even know that you can have someone facilitate it, because there's a lot of pressure to be a facilitator and a participant.
Big time.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah. I mean, just by way of the hats and stuff that you wear, like you just illustrated a great thing. If I'm a participant, then I'm having if I'm a participant, then I'm supposed to be focusing on, oh, wow, I'm doing some exercises that are really getting into identity issues and insecurity. And I'm looking at vulnerability for things that I'm accessing a space away from my day-to-day life, which is one of the values of a retreat, right? Is I haven't looked at my email in 12 hours, which is, mind blowing. I haven't done this, and I'm away from my family, and I don't have to deal with all that stuff. So I would, it seems like one of the things that I think is important is for folks to, at least for me, it's easier because I do it professionally. So some things start to become like muscle memory. But if someone's there having to run policing on not only Gestalt, but also do I need to kind of course correct on your thing, think about how everybody else is interacting with it, answer questions, and facilitate some like pretty heavy exercises. That's a lot to ask of one person, even like a moderator. It's just a lot to ask of one person. So there are benefits to getting a facilitator. Obviously, I'm kind of incentivized to say that, but factually, I think there is. And EO says it's best practice. Whether you do it every year or every other year, or every 3 or 5, I definitely at least think it's a good practice. And EO Global even like subsidizes it to a degree. I think they kick in $1,500 or something every 2 years.
Wow, per forum?
Yeah. So every forum, and because Nashville has it, but I'm almost positive now EO Global may shoot me on this one, but I know most chapters subsidize it, and I know in EO Nashville, it goes untapped. That reserve of funds goes untapped every year.
Really incredible.
Yeah, that's true of a lot of things in EO.
So Eric, let's just do this before we will put this episode at the end. So we'll use it all up in our own forums, and then we'll release this, and then
yeah,
I have to get it smart. Now we'll let everybody know that we're not going to hog this money, but it is something that everybody should be aware of. These are tools and resources for EO. These are for us to take advantage of. And I had never even thought of having a facilitator. I always had the pressure of, what are you going to do in the retreat? What activities are going to be, and all of that. So have you been in a forum that had a facilitator or have you always been the facilitator?
I've always been the facilitator, and I've tried to get out of it. And then my group is like, why would we pay when we could for free? And I'm like, all right, I get it.
Like being the only guy in your forum that knows IT. Every
that's
IT
the worst.
problem becomes yours.
That's the worst.
It's the same thing. But I'll be honest, I would have a harder time doing it because of my own ego issues that I'm working through with my therapist. But it would pull me out of it more to be evaluating the person and either how can I get better or how would I have done it different from that. So I'm probably most in my element just doing it. And fortunately, because it has become muscle memory, we even talked about it at the retreat. But I enjoy it, and it's so much in the middle of my ikigai purpose, meeting all my stuff in life, that I love it so much that the focus that it lets me have, and I can fairly quickly swap off the hat of like, I'm facilitating right now, or I'm a participant right now, you know? I love it so much.
And is one of the reasons you, is it that you love the act of this vision building for yourself personally, that you just kind of project it and you assume everyone else would want to do the same thing? Or have you heard that people that have gone through this exercise that is so impactful? I mean, what is the outcome of going through an exercise where you're doing a vision building that you've seen like past, from the past and going forward? Are you getting feedback from past people? Like, tell us some stories there.
Yeah. Can I make one important distinction? So not all of my retreats do exercises like that. And so there's a number of them. Like some of them are far more focused on like best practices and stuff. And I'm saying this, I don't mean it by way of promotion, but just by way of as people are thinking about what kind of content that they can do on their actual retreat. I mean, there's a time when like life planning and vision and purpose and meaning definition is really great. There's others where there's a forum that goes like in their anonymous survey on the front end or whatever, they talk about it. It's clear that everybody wants a lot of like effectively like business tools and stuff. It's a goal setting and KPIs retreat. And it's not really about defining personal identity and mission. Others, it might deal with, no, this one is all about bonding, like early retreats. Don't need to do that. I wouldn't say. Your first one or two retreats, it's the time when you're still building your culture, forming, storming, norming, performing. You're still informing. So it's a great time for the vehicles like Lifelines or what you can call the 3-2-1 or the 3-3-3, the three most important people in your life, the three most important decisions in your life, and the three most important events. Things like that are a very different retreat because it's not forward looking. It's, I barely know you bozos. And so I would like to, and I use that term, that's a compliment.
Well, I'm a bozo, I would admit it.
So, but like that's a retreat that very much we need to get some depth and vulnerability, and I need context for who you are more so because I want to know what your future is, but I could really benefit from knowing where you're at.
And I got that from our first time doing and this is Ellie's stuff with doing the Lifelines and actually seeing those things. And when you're with a group of entrepreneurs and you're hearing those highs that we all have, their successes, right? We always want to talk about those, but the lows were those were the change moments in us. Those were the times that we had to shift. We lost something. We had a major defeat, and it shaped the trajectory. And what I've often seen, anybody I've seen their lifeline, if I could look at the downs, and those were the moments they turned on. And it's actually helped me to now receive bad news and go, there is something awesome with this what I would perceive as negative experience.
Yeah. There's no chance you're going to be bored after that happens, right? I think that's the description I've heard.
Yeah.
So I've got a question for you, Colton. What sorts of advice would you give to EO members who maybe they're about to do their first retreat, or maybe they've done retreats in the past and they want to amp it up? How should they approach being very intentional about what they as a group want to get out of the forum experience, the forum retreat experience?
I will walk through the exact process I would do. I'll also give the hack, which is, and again, I get no money off this. Go to Amazon, look up ForumSherpa's retreat planning workbook. It's like 300 pages, and just start at page 1 and read the first 10 pages. And that literally sets it up exactly what it is. What kind of location to look for, how to travel, what should you bring? It's all the stuff that sounds so simple, but it's just great. When your first retreat, you will have the quality of your retreat will be so much better if you follow a formula like that. That's like, so you don't have to think about it, just do it. And it's going to inventory everything.
And it's like $50. It's perfect.
Yeah. And you can keep it forever and you can swap it around with whoever. It's a really great tool. I can talk through it, but it's like that just does it, and just start on page 1 and you're going to have a pretty awesome retreat if you just do that thing.
Yeah. Wow. Good feedback.
My forum hired Ellie to put together a workbook specifically for us a few years back. We were in Truckee, California, and it was one of the best forum retreats we've ever had in 15 years.
That's awesome.
So, highly recommend that.
So then for those that like didn't pause the podcast right now and go buy the book and then wait for it to arrive and all that stuff. Welcome back. So yeah, it's been a week.
Read it anyways. Who reads things? They just want to listen to. Can I listen to the book? Is this an Audible? Also, whatever.
Also valid. So a couple things going into it, and there's different types of retreats and different needs that are met. In the very first one, my whole goal, it's the reason why I say if you add a new member or when you're a brand new forum, as someone that's now taking over the seed moderator stuff for Nashville, this is Arnie's not going to like this, but this is a thing that I'm instilling, which is don't overcomplicate it. Just get the hell out of town in a crappy Airbnb or whatever it is, and just spend 24 hours together so you have a bit of separation from the world.
Yes.
You're going to get some inside jokes late at night, hanging out, talking and all that stuff. Really the forming, that I just need some bonding there. I don't need this massive, deep life vision. Those things are awesome and great, but you have some opportunity in those first 1-2 retreats where it's really just about really getting to know each other, and there's so much value.
Can I tell a story real quick? So my first out-of-town forum experience, we rented a van on the retreat, and it was 3 hours, and it was all of us in the same vehicle, which I recommend to do because you want to be forced contained in a place that you can have conversation, because the retreat starts with picking everybody up from their houses, picking all the things, the luggage, and having the conversations in the vehicle. And we learned so much about each other on the way. But what was interesting is on the return back, because one of our four mates was driving. His name will remain nameless here. But this dude wanted to text and drive, right? And it created so much tension in the vehicle. And it caused it created conflict. And conflict is king, because it's really powerful when you get in conflict and you have to be honest, like, oh my gosh, I am scared of my life. Slow down. And everyone was feeling it. And he just, in his own world, nothing's wrong. He's just used to that.
Right.
That is his world. And when he's driving, and we had to get into an uncomfortable conversation, which I feel really helped grow us. And we would have never had that experience if we separated, went to the airport. We would have hung out at a bar, waiting on the flight. But you're never going to be really together on a plane. There may be a couple, but you're not going to have all of you. And so I just wanted to share that, because how you get to the location matters to the connection experience.
I've got one to share. So I had a moderator when we first got the Ocho together, Forum 8, who was a seasoned EO member. And he told us, well, the way this works is it's once in a lifetime experience. We're going to go somewhere. We're going to go big. Get your passport out. We're going to go for a week. We're going to spend a week together. And nobody in the forum said anything. We just all went, okay. And several of us were like, oh my gosh, I didn't sign up for this, but I guess maybe I did. And so we go have that experience. We go to Isla Mujeres, a little island off the coast of Cancun, Mexico, and had an absolute blast. I mean, we didn't really know each other. We'd been together for 10 or 11 months. We take that retreat, and then everything changed at that point. We did have some good exercises. I think they were probably from Ellie. I mean, she goes that far back. But the act of getting out of town and doing some work and then going to dinner and having breakfast made for us the next morning and, just in the act of being not in your normal environment made the work more impactful, because we would do the work, then we would talk about it at lunch, we would ruminate on it and spend more time. We're not going right back to where we live and, kids and all the other chaos. And so by the time you get to the end of that week, you're ready to run through a wall. You're ready to go back and accomplish the things that you've set your mind to do, the decisions you've decided to make, you're going to go make them. And for us, that's, and I may have talked about this in the first series of podcasts, but for us, it is that this is what defines our forum. And this is going to be how we're going to run our particular forum. It's written into our constitution.
And you know what that is, though? That experience of traveling out of town is an altered state.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're in an altered state. You're learning new people. You're starting to recognize the person that you could be. You're stepping away from your existing life, and you're almost looking at your life in a different perspective. And you're learning these new things. You're learning new stories, and you're learning that total new perspective. What you once thought about your work suddenly gets reshaped through another story or an experience along the way. And the out of town is a must. Can you do a retreat in town? Yeah, you could, but it's not going to be nearly as effective because your environment's just going to remind you of the same old thing. You need an environment to remind you of what is, what could be.
Yep. One of our best retreats was to Medellin, Colombia. And, it's a place where you could potentially get kidnapped and, never be heard from again. So that adds a little extra to our Forum retreats. We hiked the Machu Picchu, the Inca Trail one time and off the grid for 4 days. And that puts everybody on a different wavelength.
Is that an experience, Colton, that you can buy? Could I buy a retreat where someone gets kidnapped? And then we have to go through finding the person and helping save them. That would be a terrific retreat.
Yeah, it's more than $6,000, but yeah,
it's more. Because if you can have a car, a car, chase involved, and that would be just next level.
Yeah.
A guy.
You know what? I'm going to talk to Ellie about that.
Let's get on that because I think that would change things.
I think it definitely would.
Well, let's go back to we've got some basics. Lifeline, getting vulnerability important, coming up with the Constitution, coming up with how the forum should work. I think that's level one, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the next level?
Before we go to the next level,
okay,
can I rattle them off real quick?
Go for it.
These are the basics. Every retreat should be doing this, so whether it's your first or whether it's your 50th.
If you got a pen and paper, write notes right here from the source.
Pull over on the side of the road. Get your stuff out. So a couple of things real quick. Here are the staples that you should do on every single retreat. Thing one, you should definitely be doing a review of your Constitution. Go through it. Print it out ahead of time, do whatever, and then redline anything that you're not actively doing. And that sounds as innocuous as we just struck one yesterday. One of our bullets says, try for one dinner with significant others every year. We didn't do it this year, and we already haven't planned on it. I said, hey guys, we're going to strike it. And everybody was like, yeah, because your Constitution needs to be the thing that it is absolute truth, and that's what you can hold everybody accountable for, right? So thing one, do that. Thing two, take a look at roles. Everyone, if we haven't done a podcast on that, everyone should have a role. No one should be able to just, even if it's timekeeper or treasurer or whatever, everybody needs a role. Go ahead and look at whatever your annual thing is. Ours runs July 1 to June 30. Starting at July 1, this was our mini retreat, so looking ahead a few months. Who's going to take one role? Who needs to switch? Who's whatever? Everybody said they liked their seat. We all remained in our seats. So that's thing two. Also do an exercise called Biz Buddies Balance. And so Biz Buddies Balance, you can do it ahead of time or you can do it while you're out there. Biz Buddies Balance says if I needed to allocate what I wanted out of Forum, how we spend our time in the next year, here's how I would do it. If it was a third, that's what it would be. But biz obviously means like, hey, I want business insights. I hope we talk about that, tax strategies, etc. Buddies, I just want bonding and trust and vulnerability with a group of people that I have a lot of kinship with, right? Balance is the weirder soft space of like EQ and things, which means like, I don't have a lot of spaces in life where I can explore the relationship between my identity as a father, as a business owner, as an author, like whatever that stuff is, or insecurities, trouble with how do I handle the balance in my life? You get what I'm saying? So I'm not doing it. Everybody does it. You share your numbers. I am always surprised. I'm not surprised anymore when I chart them. So if I'm facilitating a retreat, I'm up at the board and I write down everybody's numbers, and then we look at the deltas and the gaps and what everybody wants. Here's the vehicle. Here's what the importance of that is the goal is not so that way if the three of us are in a forum that we all wind up with the same number at the end of the year. The real point is that everybody, sorry, I need to eat the microphone. The real point is the fact that everyone now feels like I have a better insight in what you want. So if you put business at 70% and it's been 3 forums since we've had a deep dive into a business topic, because there's been a lot of personal stuff going on, I know to make sure that Robert's getting what he needs in this next year, come September, I may say, hey, you know what, Robert, you said 70% business. We've been about 90% personal. Next time, why don't you present on that business topic that you've been thinking on? So it's just a way to make sure people's needs are being met. One other thing of BizBuddy's balance, if you use the ForumSherpa form at the bottom, it says, what do I want? What can I give? And that's very interesting. So that's a great way to populate a parking lot, but that's things like, hey, this year, I need better tax strategies for XYZ. Hey, I need help figuring out how to accomplish X, Y, Z in my business. Do I need an admin? Do I need a part-time virtual assistant? Stuff like that. And then also, what can I give? People, I wish more folks would take the time to do that, but I can't tell you how much our forum has picked up where somebody says, hey, if there's no other time to talk about this, but I'm straight up, I'm a closeted expert in this. And 4 people in the group go, holy shit. Yeah, I didn't know that was, and they go, oh, okay, cool. We're going to do a presentation that's an internal expert on it, and you're going to teach us. The example of that was one of the members of my forum is a wealth management guy, and he said, even though I'm wealth management, I'm very good at tax. And when he talked about it, short story, we wound up in a forum where he just put his tax return up on it and went line by line, and everybody else had their tax return in March, and we were going through it, and it was just like, oh my gosh, he saved our forum between probably $70,000 and $100,000 between everybody there, only because he said, I'm very good at this thing if you want me to tell you about it. It was awesome.
That's underutilized. It's got to be.
So
I mean, there's so much expertise in every forum.
We do forget about going to forum to learn from our forum mates of a skill that it's untapped.
Yeah. So to keep rolling on the stuff that's important. So BizBuddy's balance, you have all that stuff. It's also a good time to pull up your parking lot and what I call parking lot hygiene, but go through it and look at like, hey, we need to clean this thing out, right? Who's got something that's sitting on there? If it's not a parking lot, get it off. If it's been there for, if this is our 3rd retreat and it's still there, why don't we make a point that we're going to do a deep dive on that. And that's what I had. EO Global on the website now has a brand new parking lot form that's really, really great. It's actually a really great template. You don't need to use all 9 tabs. I just used one of them, but it does a really great job of making it very accessible to populate a parking lot and go ahead and decide what you want on it. Is this something that needs brainstorming? Is this a debate? Is this role play? Is this a deep dive? Is this lightning, expert, etc.? And it just makes it really easy. And I loved it because it made my job as moderator easy, that by the end of the retreat, I have 36 some odd cells of topics that people now have captured in a space and already know what they want out of it. Another great thing that I don't think a lot of retreats get used for, which is it's such a great time to go deep and do it. And then it makes a moderator's job for the next year on like, what are we going to cover? What are we going to do? And then the last thing I'd say, which is kind of high level, but is you're looking, if it's your first retreat or it's your 15th, most folks would say this, a retreat format is really great at a third, and which is 1/3 working on forum exercises, etc. 1/3 play, we're doing exercises. This time we were hiking in some place near the caverns, all that stuff, or whatever it is, touring a business, whatever. And then 1/3 downtime, like actually scheduling in downtime where it's not you're running from thing to thing, but you got an hour or two of downtime because that's when the conversations bubble up. And I make all our groups, and when I'm facilitating, I do it in the morning because you're fresh and you're there and all that. But the benefit is the stuff that falls out of that is then when you're in the van ride on the way to the snowmobiling thing, or you're doing this, or you're sitting on the boat getting ready for the shark dive, you're having all the conversations about all the stuff that your brain spent 4 hours percolating on between 8 to noon or whatever.
Let's talk dinner, because one thing I did on my last retreat is we just had someone cook at the house. We had a chef come in, and there was no interruptions from someone coming to try to serve drinks. And it made the conversations, it made the connections so strong. What did you find?
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of bringing in a chef or going somewhere with a private room, whatever it is. I totally agree with what you're saying. The fewer the interruptions, the better it is. I definitely think, man, unless it's a really accessible meal, don't try to cook your own meals at the house just because someone's going to be removed. Now, unless they just love it, but otherwise someone's going to be removed because they're going to miss 40 minutes to an hour because they're going to be the one doing the prep and in the kitchen or whatever. So don't get me wrong, there's space for that. And sometimes somebody becomes the sous chef kitchen buddy and they have some great conversations. But so I don't want to rule it out, but I do want to say acknowledge it going in, that plan for someone else to prepare all your meals if you want to get the most.
So let me have an uncomfortable conversation. We ready for this?
Bring it.
Hang on, let me just button up.
So a lot of forums have both men and women, or people who identify as this. So how do you organize that when you have rooms only, I insist, I just want my own room. I don't want a room with any dudes. I just don't want a room with anybody at all. Yeah. Right. So how do you navigate in that, in a house? Or is it better to have separate rooms at a hotel and have a shared space? What works and what maybe doesn't?
Yeah. So, I mean, you want to go the safest, right? Which is everybody has a door that locks. So, okay, like that just in an abundance of caution, like that's what everybody does. For ours that we just had, ours is very simple. There's one woman in our forum. She always has access to her own bathroom, and a bathroom that she can get to behind a closed door, just for the basics of it. It just makes it very simple. Anyway, we're also, I'll leave whatever stuff aside, but the short story is, yes, if you have multiple genders in the same house, just to hopefully remove anything that could cause remote discomfort or whatever, yes. Make sure that you discuss it so nobody winds up at a facility where that is not already discussed and known. So I would put it on the table and say, hey, I want to do this. What does everybody want? And make it very clear. Does everybody want their own bed? Do you want your own bedroom? Do you want your own locking door? Like whatever. That's
good to have up front. I can see, many times I've been on a retreat, you show up and it's like, oh, no, you can have that one. Yeah, I don't really want that room. You try to be nice, Yeah.
To lean into the awkwardness of the one we just came back from, Cullen Douglas in our chapter. He has an awesome place called the Tree Houses. It's out there by Caverns. So we came back from. So it has one decent size lodge that has like 4 or 5 places in it. That's the main space where we do all our programming, kitchen, etc. And then it has 2 to 3 smaller cabins on the outside that are treehouse like lofts up in the air and all that stuff.
And outside of Chattanooga, if I remember.
Yeah. I guess it's like 90 minutes away. Yeah. So we just came back from there. Amy had her own cabin because we'd rented the 2, and she had this massive A-frame. And then me and Bo Hansen, who we are just fast friends, buddies, all that stuff. This whole tiny cabin, to ourselves with a loft or whatever that has a bedroom downstairs. And then up in the tiny loft, there's a tiny bunk bed. And the moment we walked in, I said, hey, we can pretend that we're going to use those 2, or we can both acknowledge right now, I'm top bunk, you're bottom bunk, and we're going there right now. And sprinted for the bunk beds because we're basically 8-year-olds. Yeah, we're 15-year-olds at best.
Now, that's great advice. Another question. This is also another delicate topic, alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is one that I think I've probably, in all the retreats and stuff, I've been on one where there was awkwardness for the prior topic, things. Anyway. And then on the next one, I have seen issues with alcohol where someone's decisions around alcohol the night before, particularly programming, impacts the rest of the group. Somebody goes too hard in the paint, they're drinking till 3 or 4. And then they're starting to nod off when someone else the next day is really getting into some meaty stuff in their life, and someone's having a hard time. Either A, they're waking up late and they're not there on time, which I'm super strict about. Hey, if we say 9, your butt is in the sofa seat at 9. So whatever you need to do to get that. So some people have guidelines about it. I know other facilitators that straight up say, like, write it into their contracts, you will not consume alcohol the night before. I'm more on the side of like, let everybody be an adult. But I ask that, like, I will say something before the drinking begins. Hey guys, we're all adults, but let's respect each other's time and presence. Conduct yourself in a way tonight that tomorrow you're going to be fully present and available for what we're trying to do together. So don't hold the group back because of alcohol decisions you make tonight.
Yeah, and I think it's important to state that not everyone in Forum is going to be a drinker. And it is definitely different when people do go hard and you're trying to carry on serious conversations, and then someone is loud or obnoxious or, just not as aware, And so I think it's, I think part of what I want to try to do in EO in general is just show some awareness that not everyone drinks and not everyone needs to have that experience all the time. And there are places where it's good to maybe not. But there's also times to open up to totally having fun and letting loose, and those things are great.
I would say nowadays, as someone that goes to lots of retreats, it is more often than not that there is at least one person not consuming alcohol at the retreat, in my experience. And so fortunately, high EQ members and stuff like that understand that be a buddy to that person, and it's not fun when even one member's belligerent. What I would say just real quick is a good thing that's also baked into them is hopefully everybody's doing clearing rounds. And if they're not, retreats are a really great time to do that. But that's also a really great vehicle. I've been at retreats and I've been facilitating retreats where in one of the middle days where we're doing work, one morning we're doing a clearing round and somebody says, hey, I'm gonna be honest, man, you, by my estimation, you overindulged and this specific joke you told did not sit well with me. And I reacted at the time, but you didn't catch it because of your inebriated state. And so I'm going to bring it up now to let you know I am asking you not to make a joke like this again.
Yeah.
And so things like that, or folks then just saying, hey, I'm going to be honest, like a clearing round at the beginning of a day, even in the middle of a retreat rather than just the beginning of the retreat, has a really great space to do what you mentioned earlier, which is bring to light conflict and all of the great things that can come out of that conflict and conversations that sometimes need to happen.
A lot that comes out of just facing danger, having the uncomfortable conversation, and letting go of, we tend to, I know I'm like this, I tend to want to be liked, right? And so when you have that, you're carrying around, like me, accept me, right? And you don't have the uncomfortable conversation. And, I've started to learn as I've gotten older that a little just relaxing a moment, allowing this, just the truth to come out and just say it like it is and get it off my chest. I feel better. It stings for the other party. It stings for me for a minute, right? But after some time, like, I don't have to have it always. That clearing round thing is something that another formate taught our form when we started. It was tremendously valuable. And it's actually something I've been using with my team members too, just in my business, right? Just to open it up, have that conversation instead of it as being a monkey that I get to carry, right?
Yeah.
Didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So to conclude, going into the next level, you've done the basics. You have a form. Let's say you've been around a while and you wanting that next level experience in a retreat. What would that look like?
So there's a couple of things I do. So in order to figure out what the best curriculum is, I would normally have some folks, do a formal anonymous survey. So that way folks can say, what do you want to get out of this retreat or what do you want to get out of next year? And then you can use that to populate what you're going to do. Likewise, or you can just say, hey, we're 2 or 3 meetings from our retreat. What does everybody want? And then just kind of give 5 minutes for folks to go around and do all that stuff. Some of the styles of exercises that let folks do that, I normally look at, which I love it when a forum says this. So there's a forum out of Zurich that I just got booked for, and they just straight up said, we want to get we want a memorable once-in-a-lifetime experience. Can you guarantee a once-in-a-lifetime experience? And I said, I don't make a guarantee on anything, but
that's why you do a hostage kit.
So that's the
that would be
all right. That is a guarantee. Shy of a guarantee, I said I'm very good, and I can talk to you about some of the tools we'll use that create a very fertile environment for everyone to decide if they are going to participate in the space that makes it a very memorable thing. So I can talk through some of it. Also, they haven't told me what city they've signed the contract. They haven't told me what city I'm going to yet. So I just know someplace in Europe. For the second week in June, I'm flying out somewhere. How much fun is that?
You're not going to know until the end?
Well, at some point they will call or email me and go, oh, hey man, here's your ticket. But right now I just know at some point I need to be good going somewhere in Europe for a week because that's what we're doing.
Okay.
I'm hype on this.
Oh, I dig it. That sounds great.
So the kind of exercise that we're going to do with them for these like once in a lifetime things, the thing that you talked about, right? And I mash a couple things into one, but there's, I'll give you this one. I really enjoy doing this one. So I have everybody, your homework is the week, for the week leading up, text 10 people in your life. Each individual does this, text 10 people in your life and ask them, what do you think from your relationship with me are my 3 core values? Or what are 3 words that you associate with me? And then that is kicking off. That's kind of like getting someone's wheels turning as those text messages come back in So then you're going to work on defining your own personal values. And what's great is I normally say, now do your thing, like write out, and there's a series of exercises and things where you're analyzing, like, what are my values? What drives me? What gives me motivation? And then look at those text messages and then see what's showing up. Like, you want to talk about expanding the Johari window, a really interesting space of what is the unknown, the things that you can't see about yourself. Mm-hmm. So doing a vehicle like that, which is effectively like, what drives me? What motivates me? What are my passions? What are my true values in life? And then having some sort of exercise like the one that you guys did, which is, I'm going to take a snapshot of my life right now through the lens of, like, call it 8 dimensions of my role in my family, my role in my business, my personal finances, my social life, my spiritual life, etc. And then you write some bullets about, like, as a current status, how are those things doing on a scale of 1 to 10 for how happy you are in your business, role in your family, your social life, etc. So what's great is, and you can see how these things start to stack. I did a exercise that had me explore and define my values. I then looked at my life through some important dimensions and looked at my happiness. And now I can look at the outcome of step 1 laid over step 2 to see how much of my values are impacting the alignment. And then step 3 in a thing like this is, okay, when this forum gets back together 5 years from now on our retreat 5 years from now, what needs to change in order for all of those things we just defined to be 10s, a 10 in your business, a 10 in your family, a 10 in whatever. And then how are you going to pull from exercise 1, those values all the way up and through? And now to my forum, I am telling them the story of what my life looks like 5 years from now, which then obviously closes with, cool, what are you going to do between now and our next forum to make progress to this 5-year self that you just told us about, right? Yeah. I'm getting chills talking about it. And
what showed up for me, you go through an exercise like that with an expectation of X. And then when you actually get there, for me, we're doing this personal vision. And what showed up, we're in dinner, we're having a conversation, and one of the entrepreneurs say, have you guys read The 12 Regrets of the Dying? And it's the hospice nurses who have the top 12 regrets of the dying. And he's explaining this, and I'm just had this aha, because our personal vision, we get what we want. We get what we envision. We can get that. But what if we got what we wanted, but it's not what we needed? At the end of the day, who would you want to take advice from? Someone like you and I, of life, living life, or someone exiting life? I want to take the guy that's leaving. I want to hear what are his regrets, because I don't want those too. And when we did our vision building with that context of 12 regrets, it changed my entire way to look at, because, often we were like, oh, I want to get this wealthy, or I wanted this asset, or I want this thing, right? But when you listen to those 12 regrets, you realize that all that stuff is bullshit, total bullshit. And if I could just stay focused on just listening to what these people are saying and be opened up to, how can I have that? I want, a lot of those is, living up to your full potential, spending time with people you love, right? Experiencing nature. And there's so many of these 12 things that you need to incorporate. Otherwise, you could find yourself that you create your own prison and a dream that you didn't really want, but you thought you. But anyway, thank you for coming here, Colton, today. Thank you for sharing this knowledge on retreats. We really appreciate the lessons. How would one get a hold of you to help them with their own forum retreat as a facilitator?
ColtonMulligan.com. Email me, text me. I'm not hard to get a hold of.
Awesome. Thank you, Colton. Thank you, Eric Jackson. Thank you, EO Nashville, for joining us. You know how to find us in Spotify. You can subscribe to our channel in iTunes. We're also in YouTube. You can watch this on video. Love to have you again. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.